Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Jonny Sue is still spinning on those ones and twos. He's doing the cough, scratch. That's what you do on the ones and twos.
Oh, God, Pasta.
Fam, a lot of stuff's been going on.
So, you guys, as you know, everybody's freaking out today about the coronavirus. And I don't want to minimize what the coronavirus is. However, we do have to be aware that the mainstream media and these pundits are framing this narrative to panic people and to pretty much get people to check out from the underlying things that are happening, and how this is being used to silence the voices of the working class, to silence any kind of dissent, and to get people to completely check out from the elections and what's happening in our elections, like election integrity, which has still yet to be addressed by the majority of people. So let's start off with facts about the coronavirus, because we haven't really covered it much because we've been so busy covering the elections that we didn't really get a chance. And I'm a very skeptical person. I'm kind of cynical. And I know that there are manipulations that the government does in order to scare people. So let's just break this down and discuss it, right? So this chart is true. The only thing is that now there are 127,000 people who have the coronavirus. So it has grown since this chart. And I'm just going to go ahead and read to you guys, what is the coronavirus? According to the WHO, the World Health Organization, a coronavirus is a type of virus that is transmitted from animals to humans. When a new strain first infects humans, it is known as a, quote, novel coronavirus. Other famous illnesses caused by this coronavirus or coronaviruses include severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, and Middle East respiratory syndrome, or MERS. COVID-19 was first discovered in 2019. And so the flu is different from this because although they have similar symptoms, the flu is caused by different strains of influenza viruses, whereas COVID-19 is caused by a single virus. The biggest difference between the two is that the coronavirus may be able to be transmitted through cold air even after that ill person is no longer near. The flu, on the other hand, requires closer contact through sneezing or talking. So a lot of people didn't know this.
So it's more outbreakish, the coronavirus.
Right. The coronavirus is more outbreakish.
Jonny Outbreak.
Pasta says this because I put on Outbreak the other night, and he was like,
McDreamy
making
died.
fun of me, and yeah, he was just that movie was terrible, by the way.
I loved it. You were getting into it. You were narrating it. You were like, you see, this is what happened. Oh, they're wrong here. This is what they need to do.
But
Fiorella has become like because of her Grey's Anatomy attachment and everything else, she's become like an expert when it comes to airborne outbreak viruses and
it's science,
surgery,
fam.
right?
It's science.
It's science.
Fam. It's science. Okay. So the common symptoms are pretty much for COVID-19, fever, cough, and shortness of breath. I'm going to emphasize the shortness of breath because that's also been emphasized more recently, because people who already have issues breathing need to be very careful, and we're going to go over that. And like I said, a death toll has increased since this chart was made. And that is something serious. I mean, we went from 87,000 to 127,000 in a matter of days. So this isn't anything to be dismissed. I want to be clear about that.
But
according to the CDC,
we're talking about the symptoms now.
Yeah, you got to watch out for actual fever, not just a cold, cough, the shortness of breath, like we said, and when you have a hard time breathing or pressure in your chest, fam. Yeah. So.
Well, I don't have a fever, and I really don't have a lot of shortness of breath. I mean, I do have shortness of breath every day when I run back and forth to the refrigerator to grab a few things of Scarol over there.
Pasta gets shortness of breath when we go hiking or anything like that.
Oh, stop. Well, the one time, I do cough all the time. The other day, I got in a lift after I was smoking a bowl, and somebody goes, the lady was like, oh, she rolled down the window. She's got, what do you got, coronavirus? I'm like, no, I just smoked a big old bowl. But
that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Pasta's
I think
a smoker,
everybody who medicates out there is going to be like, do I have the coronavirus or not, or did I just?
Well, they said that I read this article that was saying that if you have a vape, it can lead to it more.
So wait a second,
if you're a smoker,
if you're a vapor
or a smoker,
you're more likely to get transmitted the coronavirus. So stick to just straight up flour.
Yeah,
I love the graphs Johnny's got going on over there too. It's like Johnny graphics in the corner. Look at him.
That's what it looks like. No, that's what it looks like, and it has the spikes, the corona. So in case you guys don't know Spanish, corona is crown. So it looks like a crown. That's where the name comes from. So according also to the CDC, because I guess that's who we trust in these times of crisis. Yeah, I know. Older people with pre-existing conditions should stay home and buckle up because, like we said, according to them, people who have blood disorders, chronic kidney disease, compromised immune systems, meaning if you've had chemotherapy, cancer in the past, etc., you're more likely to be susceptible in a more serious manner to this disease. Pregnancy, current or recently. So not a good time to get pregnant, you guys. And endocrine disorders.
Let me mark that on the calendar. Not a time to get pregnant. Go ahead.
Metabolic disorders, heart disease, lung disease. So asthma, any sort of disease like that. Stay home. Check on your people who have these chronic conditions and predisposed issues to this virus. There's also neurological conditions that if you have any sort of neurological conditions, that also doesn't help. And according to the disease expert Michael Osterholm, who was on Joe Rogan's podcast, this is like a brief summary of what they spoke about. I don't know if you want to pull it up. I didn't put it in there, Johnny. But basically, the coronavirus is 10 to 15 times stronger in effects than a normal flu-causing virus, which means the death rate is 0.1% in cases of normal flu. 1 out of 1,000 people who contact the flu die. Becomes 1% in the corona cases. It spreads just like normal flu from one person to another, but it's actually airborne. The perception is it's affecting badly, mainly older people, but it may cause trouble to people, like we said, with underlying complications, high blood pressure, obesity, and diabetes. 4, it is going to stay here for 5 to 6 months.
This is the part what I was reading that just really bothered me, and I wanted to talk to you about this and stuff like that. So, I mean, there are some situations where they say that people, no matter what, 86% of the people are going to get coronavirus. Everybody's going to get it. We have to get treated for it. It has to pass through, whatnot.
Yeah.
What the hell are we going to do for 5 to 6 months and stuff? Yeah. How are we going to fight this off? Right. I'm saying, obviously, further in the folder, we're going to get to the ways to prevent things. I saw something that said eat healthy, be clean, all that stuff. But
which is expensive, by the way, to eat healthier. Salads and stuff, if you buy it at a restaurant, costs a lot more. It's going to have to cause people to cook at home more, I think. Obviously. And so people like pasta are going to become essential in the apocalypse because pasta is the cook. We saw in The Walking Dead how the cook was very important up to a certain extent. And then
I'm gonna contact some rich friends like, hey man, if you want me to come cook for you, we just get everything and come in. I'll come cook everything.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If you give me free health care over there, if you get a test over there, because rich people are going to be able to get to the test. The rich people are going to be able to take care of themselves.
Yep.
It's the poor people. Not only the fact that they're shutting down a lot of stuff, the NBA, hockey, soccer, everything got shut down over here. Now that might seem like, oh, well, the athletes will be okay. They'll be able to pass. Yeah. But all the people working in those stadiums who depend upon those checks, now they're going to be cut off.
Restaurants, retail,
all this stuff.
Small businesses. This is a huge concern. More to me than medically. It is an economic disaster. That's what it is to me. I think I agree with Pasta. If everybody's more likely going to get it, it's kind of something that isn't that serious if you're a younger, healthier person. But if you're an older person or have issues, then that's when it becomes a thing. Yeah. Vaccines are going to take time to develop, fam. And when they develop, they're going to go directly to the rich. And they're estimating right now more than a year. you wanted to read your super
I
chat.
was going to wait until you were done with the
Okay.
5 and 6 before segment 2. So you got 5, and what
6,
can we do to avoid large gatherings and eat
yeah,
healthy?
it's just eat healthy and avoid large gatherings, which is unfortunate. And I'm going to touch on this in a minute because we're in the middle of an election season, very contentious. Joe Biden is senile. He has dementia. He has, if you want to put it nicely, is mentally incompetent to be president of the United States. Somehow, the election integrity people have figured it out. This is once again being rigged. Nobody's talking about that. And that's going to be pushed into the back burner as more people panic on this.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue talking about that in the next segment.
Jason V, thank you for the super chat contribution. As it is always appreciated. On the
Now
couch.
more than ever.
Yes, we need it now. Help us out.
We really need to contrast the mainstream media and what they're doing, because all they're doing is freaking people out, and that's not what the media is supposed to do.
Serious, not world ending, but low key. Hope it keeps crashing the empire down. Hope work practices change. I'm used to coughing, so I want 2 weeks off. Jason V, that's cool, but I think the elites are going to use this to their advantage. They're going to use this for control. We just heard from Washington that they put it out there. No more gatherings of more than 250 people together. So if there's a wedding plan and all this stuff, it's shut down. And let me tell you something, the actions by the mainstream media and the establishment, the way they kind of politicize this whole thing going through, they use it as an excuse to attack Donald Trump. Donald Trump used it as an excuse to fucking, with the market crashing, which is going on. It's been the worst day today. So it's been a shit show all on online, on TV and whatnot. And segment 2 is here.
Right. So we're in the middle of a primary. It's a very contentious primary. We've seen what's going on with the votes in Michigan, with the votes in New Hampshire, with what happened in California, everything. Joe Biden should not be ahead by delegates, and he's barely ahead because there's a lot of delegates we haven't counted in Washington State, which is completely like under martial law now. I mean, we're talking to our friends there, and it's not looking good for them over there. They have, I believe, 36 deaths I saw. They a lot of people have died over there. It's in the segment. It's in red. If you look at the map, Washington is red. California is red in the map. Florida's orange.
This is me and Fee walking our household around yesterday. We had to go around making sure everything's okay, picking stuff up with tweezers, looking at it. That's our front yard, by the way, guys. And then that was us.
So Bernie. So let's talk about what Bernie has done.
We have to talk about how they're handling this stuff, because I'm going to say this right now. You weeks ago, like when we weren't talking, I know I wasn't talking, but Tulsi was talking about this. She got really out ahead in front of this and stuff.
Yeah, we'll get to Tulsi.
Yeah, we'll get to that and stuff. But I just want to say off the bat too. Go ahead, Bernie Sanders, what he said right here.
So I agree with the way Bernie is handling coronavirus specifically. There are a lot of things that I'm pissed off at, and so are a lot of his supporters. And we will address those, or I will address those too later. But if there ever was a moment that showed us the need for all people to be able to get health care, regardless of their income, that is that moment. This is that moment. Medicare for all now. And I agree with Bernie here. I mean, this is precisely why we need Medicare for all, because now people are freaking out. Like, how am I going to call my doctor? Where am I going to go? It's going to take me forever. And then they're going to give me a giant bill. And so I'd rather just not go and get tested and just figure it out. I mean, we've just had this conversation earlier today.
I have a question for you, since you're a qualified television doctor. Maybe you can help me out.
Mean, obviously, yeah.
I mean, nobody's watched more than Grey's Anatomy than you, fam. Is there a possible way, you hear these talks about 80% of the people are going to get it. It's going to be airborne, eat healthy, be clean, all that stuff. Is there a way that if I had money and I can go to my doctor, he can give me something that would strengthen my immune system or prevent me from getting a serious case of the coronavirus? In other words, if I had money in healthcare, would I be better off to fight off this virus or
obviously
prepare it?
I mean, you'd have storage. A lot of wealthy people, I don't know if you guys have seen Kim Kardashian's fridge. She has like 4 fridges. I'm not even joking. This is like everywhere. She has a fridge for her juices, another fridge for her stuff. I mean, they are better equipped as far as having supplies. The problem they would run into in a situation like this is once the poor people run out, the poor people go after the rich. So you can build your barricades and you can build your what is it, like end of the world,
your bunkers,
but
dude,
people, we're gonna come after you,
dude,
and we're hungry now. We're like, I mean, this is it. You want the zombie apocalypse? This is
need
it.
Me. Protect me and keep me healthy because you get some food. You can't cook it. I got to cook it. Dude, I have a friend at work. His name is Mike. He works at Magic Messenger with me. I call him Magic Mike. But his girl is a doomsday prepper, and she's into ammunition. She's into guns.
Like
they have. He was talking to me about these bunkers that they build out in the middle of nowhere and stuff like that. They're prepping for all this stuff.
Washington State has a lot of these bunkers. I think we should visit
We're not going to Washington
Crow
State.
Fam.
Land of Oz. Crow's not there. Crow's in the middle of Arizona right now.
I know, and we need people in Arizona right now. So Bernie gave an address to deal with the economic and health crisis. And of course, he said, while we work to pass Medicare for all, the U.S. government must be clear that in the midst of this emergency, everyone in our country, regardless of income or where they live, must be able to get the health care that they need without cost. So let's play this video.
It's so crazy that this is like Bernie's wheelhouse of what he's been talking about for years. And now the coronavirus is coming after it. So it's like, hello, the guy's been talking about this for years. Sorry, my bad.
But it's ironic because at the same time, everything is being used to prevent people from going to the polls now.
Yeah.
So,
well, to also what's happening at the polls, it just kind of reiterates the fact that I was right, that election integrity and civil liberties have to come first before we get anything else. Play the video.
You know what, Pasta?
Unfortunately, as I think the American people increasingly understand, our country is at a severe disadvantage compared to every other major country on earth, because we do not guarantee health care to all people as a right. And as we speak, some 87 million Americans are either uninsured or underinsured. And when you are uninsured or underinsured, you hesitate about getting the medical care you need because you cannot afford to get that medical care. The result is that millions of our people cannot afford to go to a doctor, let alone pay for a coronavirus test. So, while we work to pass a Medicare for all single-payer system, the United States government today must make it clear that in the midst of this emergency, everyone in our country, regardless of income or where they live, must be able to get all of the health care they need without cost. Obviously, when a vaccine or other effective treatment is developed, it must be free of charge. We cannot live in a nation where if you have the money, you get the treatment you need to survive, but if you're working class or poor, you get to the end of the line. That would be morally unacceptable. Further, we need emergency funding.
Yep. So, Pasta. So, Bernie is addressing every key issue here. He's addressed from Medicare for all to emergency funding to, if we had everything that Bernie is proposing already, we would be well equipped. People would be able to go and get these medications, or at least go to the doctor. People would be able to take off work. The Green New Deal would protect them. Underpaid leave, sick days, all of the things that Bernie Sanders has been proposing would be the medicine, the panacea to what's happening right now.
Well, Jim Garrison for the Super Chat contribution, as it is always appreciated on the couch, more than ever, says, eat the rich.
I agree.
Eat the rich. We got to do it. We have to hit the rich.
It's time.
I put that other tweet up for you right there.
Oh, you did.
Bernie Sanders also says it will be easy to feel like we are in this alone.
Right, because you're being quarantined.
Yes.
Let's play the video.
Or that we must only worry about ourselves and let everyone else fend for themselves. That would be a very dangerous mistake. We must remember that we are all in this together.
Stay or work from home and are directed to quarantine, it will be easy for us to feel like we are all alone. I'm working at home, not in my office. Or that we must only worry about ourselves and think that everybody else should fend for themselves. But in my view, that would be a tragic and dangerous mistake. If there ever was a time in the modern history of our country when we are all in this together, this is that moment. Now is the time for solidarity. Now is the time to come together with love and compassion for all, including the most vulnerable people in our society who will face this pandemic from a health perspective or face it from an economic perspective. If our neighbor or coworker gets sick, we have the potential to become sick. If our neighbor loses his or her job, then our local community suffers and we may lose our jobs. We are in this together. If doctors and nurses and medical personnel do not have the equipment and the training and the capacity they need right now, people we know may unnecessarily face additional illness and even death. We are all in this together.
Well, I think that some people got to get sick, and when they get sick, here's the thing: the rich think they're gonna just, no matter what, they're gonna be able to get their goods delivered to them and all this shit and stuff. But what happens when their money starts and their value starts decreasing, and when the people, the common folk who do all these jobs, who transport all these goods, go, "F you, we ain't gonna do shit." We'll see when their society breaks down. He's right. We are all in this together.
And that's the thing about Bernie. He's always pushing compassion and empathy, and that's sometimes what gets him in trouble. I think to a degree.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's great, and I think he's right. There's already a lot of panic. I mean, I've seen pictures from my friends, like going to the grocery store. It's completely cleared out. Everything's completely cleared out. There was no toilet paper.
You guys better go get me some toilet paper, man. I need, Johnny, listen, I have 2 rolls back up. I have a Trump and a Hillary toilet paper to back up that I've never used, but I'm going to use it now, man.
Well, I mean, it's kind of fitting.
Go get me food to cook the fam, and go
get
me toilet paper.
The toilet paper scenario, though, that just shows the stupidity of panic. There's no reason why you need more toilet paper than ever. And it also shows the selfishness of people. People are buying it and hoarding it. And you know, and that's not a very brotherly or compassionate thing to do. This is why I'm a fucking socialist, because it's just like, they're just like, capitalism, you got to hoard it. And then these people are profiting off of people's misery. I mean, this is the shock doctrine. This is disaster capitalism. This is how our country is set to fail.
Well, when you got a society where everybody's pitted at each other's throats, that's what capitalism does.
That is the definition.
Capitalism is supposed to lead to most more choices, but it always seems to lead to crony capitalism, and shit like this happens. Why are people buying all this toilet paper, fam? If they don't eat, they can't shit.
Exactly.
You can only buy toilet paper equivalent to the food you can eat.
Well, yeah, like that's the thing. It's not rational. It's not logical. They're just acting on. And Vice did a story on it, actually, and they were asking people why, and they're like, because we're stupid. They're like, oh, because everybody's doing it. This is the mob mentality that we have to counteract, and it is pushed and propagated by the mainstream media. That sort of behavior is a direct result of the mainstream media panic and how this government has failed to deal with this situation in a proper way.
There's Johnny right there.
There's Johnny.
Johnny when he created the corona.
Johnny Corona.
Johnny Corona. Johnny outbreak.
So Biden, though, I'm sure has the best answer to all of our problems, right?
Fam, it's about when you got hair on your legs, and I love cockroaches. Can you believe this guy is actually leading?
No.
Because he's not leading.
He's not. That's the thing. So Biden said, when a vaccine's ready to go, it should also be widely available and, again, free of charge. Okay, good job, Biden. I agree with you. But do I trust he's going to actually make this happen? No, he's not, because he's directly stood against everything Bernie Sanders has just said. He's against Medicare for all. He said he would veto it. He's against a federal jobs guarantee or a Green New Deal.
Yeah.
So
He's
how is that
trying
going to
erase
happen
his
with
history too? Like act like
Oh,
he
yeah.
didn't promote the Iraq War and stuff. Thank God for Johnny making that one video with him on the floor with the buzzers. I was able to get it out there yesterday, and a lot of people were sharing it. And let me ask you a question as we look at Joe Biden. We're gonna watch this video. Why does he always have this Clint Eastwood, Robert De Niro face on of like squinting with his eyes, like?
Because that's
Like Johnny just
Joe
gave-
Biden. That's the malarkey look. That's play it.
But therapeutics can and should come sooner. This will save lives. When I put together and we passed the Cures Act of 2016 to accelerate work on the National Institute of Health, but now it has to be made available, make available resources to speed that process along. We have to fast-track clinical trials within NIH while closely coordinating with the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, on trial approvals so that science is not hindered by the bureaucracy. And when a vaccine is ready to go, it should also be made widely available and, again, free of charge.
So let me just point out a difference between Bernie and Biden. Bernie is actually saying we need, to give people packages. We need people to have unemployment benefits. We need to address the gig economy workers. We need to do this. He's giving actual tangible solutions to what's happening. Biden is saying, oh, we need this to be free. But he's not telling you how that's going to happen. And the reason he's not telling you how that's going to happen is because he actually has zero plans on actually implementing this.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people don't really see sometimes the difference between somebody pandering and somebody actually giving you solutions.
Yeah. I mean, this guy's a joke. I mean, this guy is just a friggin' joke. If anybody, I mean, really, does anybody believe that he's going to be Trump anyways?
No.
I mean, does anybody believe, would you feel comfortable with this guy as your president? No way.
And so we have the difference between Medicare for
all
all
and Biden care.
So Medicare for all, everybody gets health care, period. Biden care is going to leave nearly 10 million people uninsured. Medicare for all is going to eliminate copays, deductibles, premiums. On Biden care, tens of millions of Americans will remain underinsured. Medicare for all provides freedom and stability because you don't have to worry about it. Biden care is going to leave people at the whims of their employers still. So really pretty much the same thing as we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Medicare for all is going to have uniform, comprehensive, affordable coverage to people of all income levels. And Biden care is a public option, which is going to be too expensive for those who need it most. And Medicare for all is going to radically transform our healthcare system to provide equitable care to all. And Biden care is going to still have a fundamentally broken for-profit healthcare system. And the worst part about his public option, Biden care, is that it's going to crush any idea of a Medicare for all system because they're going to say, oh, look, the public option doesn't work. See? So that means that we can't have that. That's the American way of thought. And they're going to blame it on the progressive part of a public option, which is designed to fail in order to prove that it doesn't work so these insurance companies and big pharma can continue making money. So that's what we need to consider when people tell you that it doesn't matter, that Biden can beat Trump. Biden cannot beat Trump under any circumstances. In fact, if you look at the data between who's voting for Biden and who isn't, the majority of people that are voting for Bernie are under 45. And the majority of those people aren't going to vote in the general election. So without those people, there's no way in hell that you can beat Donald Trump.
Yeah. I'm not calling for anything, Gravity. I don't know what you're talking about. We're just saying eat the rich and stuff, you know.
I mean, I am. I'm calling for an uprising of the working class. I mean, it's time. When is that going to happen? Well, I'll address that later because it needs to happen now.
Look,
People need to organize.
I'm calling for what Bernie just called for peaceful resolution altogether. We're all in this together. If the people who have more are going to help the people below them, I mean, this is an epidemic coming right now. This is a virus that's coming up. You know what I'm saying? We have to all get in together. The economic disparity, which is really just a disparity between resources, the resource disparity between the poor and the rich is disgusting. And we're going to have to all work on this together. And like I said, for the rich people, their economy is going to get shut down as well. I want to bring people together and help. I want to cook. So if we're all like in third world, I want to be that cook.
Pasta's
Always.
a nice one. I will cut you.
Majin Bowl 17 says, my mom has disease that weakens her immune system. She has Medicare, but I have no insurance. If I get sick and I don't know it, then it could be very bad.
Unfortunately, yeah. And that's the thing. When you have somebody that is weak next to you, you probably need to be very careful about you getting sick or isolate yourself. And that's the worst part is, I think, the isolation, the quarantine, the helplessness. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? This country did not prepare anybody to deal with this, let alone the American people.
Well, I'm glad you've been preparing yourself, Gravity Toy, and I don't even know why I'm talking to just one person, but yeah, I mean, listen, there's only so much you can prepare. I hate when people go, well, why don't you have insurance? Why don't you have health insurance?
Well,
like I don't want to have something to take care of myself. I just simply can't afford it. Yeah. I just simply can't afford the normal bills in life.
So here's what happens with health insurance. You make too much money to qualify for free insurance, but not enough money to pay for the cheap insurance.
Yep.
That's the majority of Americans right now. So blaming it on people and not realizing it's the system that's causing people to not have health care is selfish. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's uncalled for. I mean, literally, you have to make under, I think, $10,000 to get free health care in California. And California at least has that.
Exactly.
But if you make more than that, then you're screwed, because then they want you to pay hundreds of dollars a month, which nobody can afford that.
Yeah.
So
I just hate when people think it's like a personal
plus
choice.
The rent.
When you don't have like health insurance or you haven't been prepared. Man, let me tell you something. Most of the people, and I feel really bad with this coronavirus. We have 600,000 people homeless on the street.
Oh yeah, that's
just think
a
about
whole
that,
other
ladies and
epidemic
gentlemen.
right there.
But you want to say that they all made bad individual choices. We have to stop with that.
We could go back to Reagan and the policies that allowed these people to be pushed out of these mental healthcare institutions.
He did
Vietnam War,
yeah.
the soldiers that came back with PTSD and weren't able to fend for themselves or disabilities. It's just the way this country has been set up to fail.
Yeah. And when it's large amounts of people, when there's so many people homeless, when the income gap is so despairing, I mean, that's not by choice. That's the system.
It's by design.
It's by design, and that's the system and stuff. So,
it's time for people to stand up.
Let's talk about the candidate that was really out in front of this.
Yeah.
And we go to a lot of events.
We're including Tulsi because she's still in the race. And a lot of people are excluding her, but we're not going to exclude her. She should still
be on the debate stage. She's still earned that right.
Absolutely.
But she put up, standing by for votes on bipartisan emergency direct aid package for Americans most impacted by the coronavirus outbreak. The Senate needs to cancel their 10-day recess and stay in session. Pass emergency funding right away. Don't leave the American people behind.
Here's the thing with Tulsi. I 100% agree with her talking about this as a nonpartisan issue, because this isn't about politics. This is a health concern. So you guys can't say, oh, I won't work with Democrats or I won't work with Republicans. People are going to die, period. So you need to help people and pass whatever emergency legislation needs to pass in order to get our economy back. If you don't care about people, well, all the working class and middle class people who are the ones pretty much pushing whatever's left of this economy are going to be unable to maintain their houses, buy their food, and pay rent. I mean, this is insane. And so if you don't realize that they need help, not just Wall Street, we're gonna, this whole system's just gonna go completely under. I mean, this is like us, like the Roman Empire just breaking down right now.
Yeah, it's bad.
It really is.
And I heard a lot of people say that Donald Trump actually made a pretty decent speech. I have to go back and watch it about the coronavirus. And then we have Tulsi Gabbard, who just said Trump delivered an Oval Office address on the coronavirus. I agree with much of what the president has proposed. However, there are two things he did not address. Did you want to say something
before we play the video? I just want to say Donald Trump was mocking the whole thing for the longest time until it got serious. And then now he's kind of shifted his stance and was like, okay, because he's forced to deal with it now. Now it's the thing. So, but she has been right on it from the start, saying I'm against what Trump is saying. Donald Trump is dismissing this. I mean, if you go back and look at her tweets, she was the first one to address anything regarding the coronavirus, saying we were unprepared. And unfortunately for the rest of the world, she was right.
And once again, when we went to her last town hall, which was several weeks ago, and she was said it then, she repeated the same narrative. She says, like, we have 200 test kits in America. Are you kidding me? We have money to go off and spend on war, to bomb, do all this shit.
And who gets those
but
test
we don't
kits?
have money for test kits. Where in South Korea, they have drive-ups where you go, they do the test right there, and you don't even get out of the car, and they'll let you know if you have the coronavirus right there. But we're not prepared for something like this, and she was way out ahead of this before anybody was, and I got to give it up to her. This is the video she just put out. Yes, that one, Jonathan.
Who's Jonathan?
I don't know. I just kind of was mocking you.
First, it is critical that this issue does not become politicized. We are all in this together. I agree with much of what the president proposed, including ensuring that people will not have to pay for treatments. But there are two important things that he did not address. Number one, the lack of availability of tests for the coronavirus. And number two, making sure that people don't need to pay for going and taking the test. These are the two things that are needed right now. Tests need to be available. People need to be taking those tests and need to know that they're not going to have to pay for them. The other step that needs to be taken is that cruise ships should not be allowed to dock in Hawaii or any other state. These cruise ships are basically floating incubators for this disease. First, it is
so it's the best time to go on a cruise, man. Maybe we should just go on a CONVO cruise.
Hey, the CONVO cruise. But once again, she's way out there in front of it. Johnny dancing in the background. She's way out in front of it. She talked about these tests. She's been talking about them for months now. And she also, once again, a lot of people, and I saw this on Twitter. I think Colin put it up there a couple weeks ago. It's like, hey, here's a thought process. How about we cancel all cruises out and to and from America right now and stuff? We have like a lot of people in the ports of China, right outside the ports. I mean, we literally have people floating in boats out there that are not allowed to dock with a bunch of goods. And, you know, and like she said, these are, and people on them floating incubators. She's out in front of it.
This is like straight out of like the movie, not Outbreak, the other one. That Contagion. Yeah.
But
this is crazy.
There are people that don't want her to be president and stuff like that. Bernie Sanders is not the only one who's getting his vote suppressed. She's getting her vote suppressed and stuff like that. She's acting presidential AF when it comes to this shit. She was out ahead in front of everybody. You're going to tell me that's not winning people over, what she's been saying about this?
Yeah, she's just being blacklisted. That's the thing. You know.
And she hasn't stopped.
No, she hasn't stopped. And I don't mind her being in the race. I mean, I think it's actually better for Bernie to have somebody there like her against Joe Biden. I mean, whatever happens, I mean, I think she said she's going to support the nominee. So has Sanders, way too much, by the way. But I think from the data I've seen, she's also been cheated out of the primary, based on the numbers, and there's a lot of that coming out. You guys, you just have to look at my Twitter, look at other people's Twitter who have been following the election integrity, and a lot of that is coming out, and we cannot stop talking about it, because what happened last time is people stopped talking about it. 4 years later, they're getting away with it again.
Same
because
people.
Nobody did anything
Same
about
people.
it.
Remember
and
Dean
the people
Logan?
who tried were mocked as conspiracy theorists, like Tim Canova. And other
Jared
people
Beck today with Nico House, there's a video up there. They were talking about what they were going through and what happened. It's like last time they were really quiet about it. This time they're just doing it in front of everybody's faces now.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same people. Nobody was held accountable. It was never really addressed what happened in 2016. That court case back in 2016, 2017, when it came to fruition, pretty much the DNC lawyers said they can go in the back room, full cigar smoke, and pick whoever they wanted. Right then and there, we should have drawn the line, put it down, nailed it, and kicked this puppy in the butt. But we didn't.
Oh.
And people like Dean Logan and Alex Padilla, who screwed California in 2016, guess what? They screwed California in 2020. And Dean Logan makes about $341,000 of your tax-paid tax-paid dollars he gets to collect
what?
for screwing our democracy. Almost $1,000 a day to fucking over us over in our elections, and they did.
That's
disgusting. You know, and we've been working on this stuff left and right tirelessly. You'll see at the end we got a little segment with Fam going off to some people inside the Board of Soups. But let's get to Tulsi Gabbard over here, because once again, here she is.
I think it's important to focus on the economic stimulus. I agree with something that you said, actually, as we do this, that we give that direct aid to those small business owners and individuals who need it most, and not just have it go to those who already are very well off. I have concerns about the payroll tax approach that he's taking, because it's not going to help people really who make under $25,000 a year. It's not going to help people who are Uber drivers and who are working in the gig economy and who don't have an employer and are not affected in that way. I think that it would be a more direct approach to take an emergency, put an emergency aid package together to provide a direct payment of a UBI to every single American in this time of crisis, given how broad the impact will be. I think it's important to focus on the economic.
Yeah.
Boom. Give it right directly to the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Directly to the people.
And she said the words UBI, which even Bernie hasn't said, but both of them have addressed the gig economy. This is important. The gig economy is a huge part of America. That includes your Uber, your Lyft drivers, your Postmates, your waitresses, bartenders, servers. And then they are dependent on people coming into restaurants. People are not going to be coming into restaurants because they're scared and they're told to quarantine themselves. Restaurants are the area, one of the main areas besides a hospital or a school, where most of these infections are going to be spread. And so that's going to shut down. And so the economy is dependent upon these small businesses and businesses pretty much working. And so when that shuts down, you're essentially shutting down the entire economy. And the only two people I've seen address the gig economy are Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. And honestly, like, having a direct stimulus package directly to the people in a UBI form is exactly what we need, so people pay their rent, so people survive while this thing pretty much runs its course. Because the reality is, in Wuhan, they have actually started picking their businesses back up. But let it be clear that China had a very precise method in dealing with this. I mean, they were hands-on with their approach. You can call China whatever you want, but the way they dealt with this, the way they were prepared for this, is far superior to what we have thus far.
Yeah. I mean, in Wuhan, they've already closed that emergency center where people were going and stuff, and that was like ground zero for it.
And they're actually helping people. Now they're deploying others to help in other countries.
But that's what China does. It's been moving its people from poor to the middle class. They're middle class, and giving them a halfway decent living, life status. They understood there's 1 billion people. If they didn't, like, people often think like the government just controls everything, 1, 2, 3. No, they got 1 billion people. If they didn't treat their people right, they would overthrow the fucking government. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of them. So, I mean, a lot of Chinese citizens. So, yeah, the way they handled it.
Yeah, say what you want about
We'll
China,
see how
but
we
the way
go.
they
Let's see
handle
what
it.
happens right now.
So the most important part of our show today, I believe, is this. What you see in the mainstream media, what Rachel Maddow's talking about, what CNN, MSNBC, what they're doing is disgusting. The establishment is exploiting this crisis to make more money at the expense of the panic of the poor and the working class. And this is a huge problem. So the Washington Post has this whole article on how the Fed is injecting $1.5 trillion into a short-term lending market to have to calm these investors' worries about the coronavirus.
The investors.
So we need to calm the investors, you guys.
Yeah, the
right?
investors.
Forget the people that are going to be out of jobs. Forget the people that are running out of food, that can't go to the grocery store because the grocery store is out of food, who can't get tested, who, if they go to the hospital, they're told, oh, we ran out of tests. We don't have enough tests. Shout out to our friend Mark Lane. Yeah. I mean, it is disgusting. I am so angered by this. I never want to hear again, ever, how are we going to pay for it? How did we pay for this? Where'd the money come from?
The Fed created money on the, I guess, on the order of the federal government, told them to give the money to those people, whatnot, and put it out there.
I mean, Johnny, how do you feel about this? $1.5 trillion, Johnny.
They keep on creating more money. They're going to drive down the price of our currency eventually because they're actually creating more money. Not printing it on paper. They're electronically creating it and giving it to all these banks and these investors, whatnot.
But
Meanwhile,
poor
the people on the ground.
We don't have enough money for you.
You can eat a bag of Richards. Johnny, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. But I'm just like, this is disgusting.
This is your next tweet. Disgusting. Shameless plug. Breaking. We're literally bailing out the rich again as working people are losing waging hours, health benefits, salaries, and need food and supplies more than ever. The working class must see this as a direct attack on us. I'm not sure what it will take.
And that is my point, fam. I mean, we really, 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 really need to actually do something about this. People need to organize regardless of what's happening. They want you to not. They want you to stay at home, panic, do nothing, and disengage from shows like this, disengage from the political elections that are going on right now. They want you to disengage and panic because what does that do? That puts you in a circle where you're just panicking and you're scared and you go and you buy things and you're freaking out and there's no solutions. We need to find solutions. We need to not let this panic us. And unfortunately, that this is exactly what the mainstream media wants you to do.
And this is a tactic they always use. What happens is anytime there's a crisis or a shortage or something happens, a crash, the big banks always look to take advantage of it. They always look to deregulate more, get any more of their loopholes out of the way, just get them on a path to where they can do whatever the fuck they want and eventually crash our market while they run off with all the money. Remember Glass-Steagall, that was completely taken out of the books, and that allowed all these investors, these shadow banks, to go ahead and take your money and gamble with it. In other words, they didn't separate the two different types of banking from personal and investment. So therefore, they can take our money and put it into their investment portfolios and actually gamble with your funds. And that made a lot of these, bonds crash eventually, and people got screwed out of a lot of money. We're talking people's what are those, like the 401ks. All that shit. It really, really took a big beating back in the crash. We've seen The Big Short so many times. Yeah. So now what they're doing they're looking for more ways that they can deregulate, get hurdles out of their way and do what they want to do.
Absolutely. And again, I'm just going to mention this one more time. So these big banks are calling for Wall Street deregulation to fight the coronavirus. You guys, this is what they're doing. So they are using the excuse of the coronavirus to have these banks deregulated. And this is what Naomi Klein talks about in her book, The Shock Doctrine. And this is an important book that I think a lot of progressives have read. Yeah. But this is what they do when the wealthy elite use the confusion caused by a situation like this, a coronavirus or an epidemic, and the economic and disasters that happen after, to pretty much force through legislation this pro-free market legislation. And so it's really
pro-free market.
It's disgusting. And so the Mint Press has a great article on it if you guys want to read it and get actual news. This is what we should be talking about. What these people are doing, what the elites are doing behind the scenes as people panic. They are trying to sneak in there all of this legislation to deregulate banks, offer $1.5 trillion to the elites, and also prevent you from gathering in a mass protest, you guys, this is a recipe for disaster, for pretty much suppressing any sort of dissent. And there is a huge amount of public dissent and anger right now, not only because of what's happening with our elections, but also how these people have the government has dealt with this crisis and how unprepared they've been and the damage they've already done to millions of Americans by not dealing with this in the proper way.
Carmen Arbreeze, thank you for the super chat contribution. As it always, appreciated on the couch. Only 260 people watching. Come on, guys. We need 300. Love you guys. Love you too, Carmen.
Love you.
Habaristra says coronavirus with a question mark. Orson Welles, 1938, The War of the Worlds. Our new enemy will be our friends, our families, our neighbors.
Right.
All will have our iPhones. All we'll have is our iPhones. I guess that's what it's saying.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's scary to think that we are just completely ill-prepared for this. I mean, we are probably one of the worst countries as far as preparation goes. And it's going to take you guys focusing on the real underlying issues, which is how they are going to use this to their advantage. And the next point I have is how the pundits and the DNC And the mainstream media are using this to pretty much destroy.
They're going to cancel the convention.
Any sort of uprising that is bound to happen with the amount of anger, right? The convention. They're going to try to use this to push Joe Biden through without your consent, without public approval, without any of this.
Jim Clyburn says we should just cancel everything and nominate Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, by the way, Jim Clyburn, who kind of supported Joe Biden in South Carolina, he supported a guy with dementia, also voted to continue the Patriot Act. You know what I'm saying? By the way, him and Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, usual suspects that hate Trump so much and hate, they're going to push forward the Patriot Act. They're going to let his administration do what they want to do.
So let's just...
Ben Norton.
Yeah, so Ben Norton
I
basically
love Ben Norton. Gray Zone.
Yeah, exactly. MSNBC hosts are now openly making the case for why the DNC should cancel the Democratic National Convention, which is not until mid-July because of the coronavirus. Let's be clear about what's going on. They are exploiting this crisis to try to stifle democracy and silence dissent. Exactly, Ben.
We got to watch
Let's
this video.
This.
I interviewed Senator Sanders in Burlington, and one of the things I asked him about was what he thinks about the prospect of the Democratic National Convention being canceled and what sort of safeguards there should be, what sort of planning there should be at that point to make sure that the process is still transparent and fair and accomplishes what it needs to do. He said it was the first time he had been asked that question, which I was surprised by. I feel like it now feels the way things are going. Like there's almost no circumstances under which I can imagine a Democratic National Convention happening in Milwaukee this summer. Things are changing quickly, but I can't imagine they're going to reverse themselves fast enough that something like that could be viable.
If they cannot assemble under one roof as they are supposed to, that actually requires a rules change. If they have to do this remotely and everyone stays home, they're going to have to quickly get through a rules change that allows them to do that. I think they better get through some kind of rules change that certainly allows the option to do that because it's all up in the air now. The idea of everybody being gathered, in July in one of these places, under one of these domes is very hard to imagine as we sit here now.
Seems far-fetched. I mean, there is the chance, but we may not know it then. There is the chance that the virus takes the seasonal sort of dip that the flu does. But, of course, we don't know that. Dr. Fauci says we don't know that.
Right.
So...
And it should be noted that the prospect of having a hotly contested proverbial bodies on the floor, contested convention where people are fighting it out for the nomination on the floor, like having that remotely is almost impossible to imagine if we've got a nomination by
so if we have a solid victory by, say, Joe Biden, where he has all the delegates he needs before the convention, then this is easier to arrange. But I think they've got to arrange the possibility of individual delegates not being able to show up. If you feel a little bit sick a couple of days before the convention, don't come. But then how does that delegate vote? And they've got to figure out a way to do that.
Wow.
So I'm just going to say right off the bat, good thing the majority of Sanders supporters are young, under the age of 60, and are healthier than a lot of the 65 and older Biden supporters, of which there are probably like 400. And we're going to show up. That's the thing. Here's what I want everybody to get out of this. They are already pushing this idea. We can't have this convention all the way in July. I mean, it's March right now. I mean, yes, this virus could be here for 5 to 6 months, but there is no way that it's going to be there. You know, if they cancel this convention, what they're going to try to do is push Joe Biden through the loop. Like he said, arrange this. And I love how she mentions the hot bodies in this contested convention. That's the whole point. They don't want this. There's an estimated 50,000 people that are going to go to Milwaukee right now. And people are going to go, I think, regardless of what the government says. They are that angry. And they are afraid of what's happening, of the uprise of people, because people are very angry. They don't know this, but there's a lot of organizing going on. And I think they more than the coronavirus.
Yeah.
They want to
These people are disgusting.
They are
really
disgusting.
They're so fucked up. I can't stand mainstream media. Really, that they're sitting there and are actually bragging and propping up
and
Joe
they prop
Biden.
up Joe Biden, yeah.
I mean, come on,
if
ladies
Joe
and gentlemen.
Biden
You really
gets
want
the
this
nomination.
guy? This guy, let me tell you something. Oh, my God. Joe Biden is a worse candidate than Hillary.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's hard.
Tough.
That's saying a lot. That's saying a lot because at least, you know what I'm saying, and we had talks about her health and whatnot. Joe Biden has got just straight up just dementia. And really, you want us to believe that all these people went out there and voted for him? Get the hell out of here. Canceling schools and universities seems like a great idea, but who is that convenient for, fam?
Right, fam. So across the Midwest, in states where Bernie Sanders has yet to go against Joe Biden, Arizona, which actually Bernie did pretty well last time, but they closed a lot of polling stations. Ohio, Illinois, and Wisconsin, which is the area of our primary, have majorly canceled schools. Wisconsin in particular has canceled all of the schools, and they are making sure that the students don't return until after the primary on April 7th. So the primary is on April 7th. They're not returning until April 10th. How convenient that they do not return until then.
And we know the early voting always goes to the more moderate to conservative person. Always. The late voting goes to the liberal to progressive voting. It's always been that way. It's the formula. And that's why in Arizona last year in 2016, while the lady couldn't give any reasoning why, in 2016 she closed 70% of the polling stations. That was like the registrar of Arizona. I forget her title name. Same thing over here. But they profited off of long lines. Remember, Arizona was called quickly. Like 1% of the vote was in. They called it for Hillary. And it was so confusing because Bernie Sanders had already won Michigan. He won it in a fashion like the way he won Nevada. So you got to always expect that's when the establishment will pull out their tricks. What'd they do? They closed 70% of the polling places. Right now they're trying to do it in Wisconsin. Not let the kids come back. Don't get that late voting in because that voting is going to put progressive voting is what's going on. And that's what a lot of these ballots that haven't even come in, like in California, their late voting goes for Sanders. So they did the same method. They jammed up the lines because they didn't want Sanders voters getting in those lines and voting against the establishment. And they're doing the same thing right here. Every little trick of the trade's coming out.
And so we got to figure out how to organize around this because this is like a recipe, the worst thing that could happen for Bernie Sanders at this point. I mean, it's just, he can't say go canvass because people are in danger. By the way, I know for a fact that people were told not to go canvass in Arizona. They completely shut down any sort of canvassing in Arizona and nationally. This is from my sources. So the canvassing right now is shut down. Okay. Phone bank, do whatever you can to get these students registered or go to a different polling place if they're not on campus or to their home polling place. Because unfortunately, this is going to take away a lot of votes from Bernie Sanders. And while he can't say, oh, this shouldn't happen, because obviously it's declared a pandemic worldwide, there has to be a way to organize around this. And not enough people are paying attention to how this is affecting our elections. And it's going to be a disaster for the campaign if they are not prepped for this.
I wonder what Donald Trump's kind of feeling about this when it comes to the election. A lot of people who said, oh, Donald Trump doesn't want to take on Joe Biden. I'm like, yeah, he does. Like, give me Joe Biden because I get him on the debate stage. Forget about it. What's this here, fam?
So people, like we mentioned in Washington, are having a lot of issues right now.
This is disgusting is what this is, fam.
And Bernie retweeted this, actually. It said, Michael Hobbs I just went into Seattle's UW Medical Center to ask how much patients are being charged for a coronavirus test. And they are being charged $100 to $500 if they have insurance, $1,600 if they don't, $1,600 if they don't have health insurance.
I got that.
Then he said,
yeah, right.
He asked, I thought the governor was given assurances that the test would be free. And the ER check-in receptionist said, well, we're hearing some crazy stuff. Then he said he also stopped by the Swedish and Harborview hospitals, who assured him that there would be costs, but said no one in the building could offer any more specifics. The receptionist there said, gave him the number of the Washington State Health Department, and he got 2 free masks.
Woo!
Yay,
Johnny, we got some masks for sales. We got a box of them, right? They're not the good one, but we can sell them.
And then he gave us an update at UW Medical Center's billing department, got back to him and said the test now has a CPT code and an estimated cost of $250 without insurance. That doesn't cover any other services, only the test itself. If you know someone who has been tested and billed, let me know. And there's another person that commented and said, my test was 1,700 all said and done. I was required to get a full respiratory panel, including 7 to 8 PCR tests for various flus, pneumonia, etc. I applied for charity care. I literally am just finishing chemotherapy for lymphoma. Perhaps they are talking about this full panel. This is disgusting. And this is affecting people more, obviously, like this person who has had chemotherapy and has lymphoma and has diseases. And so the bottom line is, I want to read this tweet by Benjamin Dixon, who's actually always been a neoliberal up until recently.
All right, there's a different Ben Dixon then. So.
And so he said the government is really trying to decide whether or not to just let all of us get infected to avoid showing us exactly how critically important workers and consumers are to capitalism and how efficient socialism would be resolving this. So this is the key here. The government, okay, is trying to pretty much not let anybody see how this is a moment where you need to speak up. You need to rise up. This is how capitalism fails. This is why we need all these social safety nets.
Yeah.
This is precisely why.
Well, I mean, and the fact that we call it social safety nets, it really shouldn't be called that.
No.
We should just allot our tax dollars from our fugazi monetary system anyway.
Fugazi.
We're the manufacturer of our own dollar. We can never run out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Some guy was saying, learn MMT. We understand the basics of MMT, believe it or not.
But what good does that do with a government that refuses to
Yeah.
Provide that? They have that for the rich, but they refuse to give it to the poor. That's the whole point.
It was weird because he was doing my latest video, which is a cut up of when we talked about some of the issues I had with Senator Sanders moving forward as far as things are concerned. Because I can tell you this much right now: moving forward, no matter what, we need to really move forward with our election integrity harder than we've ever given before. The other day when I left, we got up really early to go to the Board of Soups, which is the Board of Supervisors, who were having a part of their monthly meeting, their hearing. People ask questions and talk. They had Dean Logan there, who's the registrar, to talk about the issues with the elections in California, primarily in Los Angeles, because this is the Los Angeles issues. And there were a bunch of people there for a group that were there to talk for, it was options, I guess, against, instead of incarceration, options against incarceration. So in other words, other options. And there was a ton of prison reform, criminal justice reform. And they had almost 200 people in there right now. And they put them up before us and they kicked this election stuff back. Pretty much what they did with the actual elections mimicked the actual elections for the hearings that they put everybody way to the back. I had to leave after around 2 o'clock to come back and get started at 3 o'clock.
After being there for her 6 hours. Yeah.
And Fiorella stayed 4 more hours just to speak. So it was just ridiculous. But if all those people left after, none of them stayed behind to talk. And that really bothers me because no matter what you want, if we don't get our elections straight, and you're seeing it right here in the case of Bernard Sanders of what's going on, if we don't address our elections, and none of our elections across this country are owned by the citizens, they're paid for federally, publicly paid elections through our taxes, but they're owned by corporations, and the tactics they use, the actual governing bodies across, they're in the tank for it. You know what I'm saying? They're part of the problem of election integrity. We never addressed it in 2016, and until we kick it in the butt, we're not getting anything. We're not getting anything. And it just so happens that the coronavirus comes right now, and all these issues that we have to talk about, we've never had the people in place, for the legislation to protect our citizens, these social safety nets that we call them. No, it's just allotting our tax dollars to protect us, to working people, to help us, instead of the elites. So that's that. Fam, anything else before the coronavirus? Because we talked so much about it. There's 275 people watching, by the way.
Yeah, thanks guys for watching. We're going to have to be doing this more than ever to counteract the mainstream media narrative. So with your help, we're going to
Johnny's
continue.
got it.
So we have in the news.
In the news, Johnny, can we get some music going? Huh?
Okay.
What do you mean? Music. Can't you just pick out something?
Pasta wants music. Okay, so Chelsea Manning was released today.
We're just going to go through some of this stuff real quick. We know it's been a long show.
Prison. And, of course, Chelsea Manning is the whistleblower.
Yeah.
And she was ordered for immediate release. This comes at the after the fact that she tried to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Which really pissed me off because, obviously, this is... the fact that she's in prison at all is a mistake. The fact that people like her and Assange are targeted is a mistake. And the fact that the government is trying to vilify them when they actually gave we the people information on how the government has been lying, cheating, and pretty much framing the narrative against us.
William Bustos, thank you for the super chat contribution. You guys are awesome. Yeah, and we are talking about Chelsea Manning. She was hospitalized for a suicide attempt shortly before. Let's not forget that she was already pardoned for most of this stuff, and now she was called back by a grand jury, and she refused to do that. She didn't want to be testifying in any private court whatsoever.
Right.
So she said no. So she took one on the chin for the citizens of the United States and our civil liberties and was locked up for a long, long time. She almost committed suicide. Now she was released. But Medea Benjamin just pointed out right here, a federal judge just ordered the release of Chelsea Manning. She still needs help as she's been slapped. A ridiculous $250,000 fine. Remember, she was fined every single day for being in there. But it's great news that she's free. But yes, here we go. She was fined almost every single day, and now she owes $250,000. They shouldn't make her pay for that.
This government is criminal. This country is just it's a dictatorship at this point by several dictators.
Yeah, I know.
It's an oligarchy.
Here we go, too, as well. While we were worried about the coronavirus,
of course,
there was an attack. 3 Western soldiers, I should say, 2 U.S., 1 British soldiers, were killed in a rocket attack in a base about 17 miles north of Baghdad. And then Trump, because we're not paying attention to it, he authorized a military response after the deadly Iran-backed attack. So once again, Mark Slobodka kind of tweeted about this a couple days ago. We're also kind of playing in this Cold War, World War III rhetoric that could become a hot war when Trump can authorize a military response. So who knows what's going to happen?
This is literally like the end of I mean, I'm not even trying to, I'm not trying to get people panicked, but this is the reality here. We have war, disease, a famine, and an economy that's failing and civil unrest.
Yeah.
These are the recipes for absolute disaster. And the reality is we have one of the worst people in power to be leading this. And then we have another idiot who is being propped up by the counterparty. It's not a counterparty. It's just a freaking, a theater
worse.
show. Exactly. He's worse. And so, in 2020, we've seen the rise of, we're in March. I just had my birthday, Jesus Christ. And like 3 months, in 3 months, we've pretty much almost gone to war. We pretty much have the coronavirus. We have rigging. We have Bernie Sanders and facing Joe Biden, who was like the worst person to lead this country. And then we have Donald Trump on top of that.
Yeah.
And let's point out, too, in Iran, the United States is stopping Iran, is pretty much making it impossible for them to get any kind of medication from Cuba. Cuba supposedly has the viral antidote to this virus.
Yeah.
And the United States is not only sanctioning Iran, they are pretty much curtailing any kind of aid that they may receive from other countries.
And this is what happens, too. Like when you don't push back, when you don't punch back, when people say, oh, he's talking good about Cuba, Bernie Sanders, he was talking about their literacy program. Yeah, they have a great literacy program. They should be.
And a medical program.
And that's the thing. He could even gone further, but they forced him not to even go further. Like the fact that they have a great medical program in Cuba. You know what I'm saying? Like, all their citizens get health care. There are doctors who drive cabs on the side because the economy hasn't worked because of the sanctions, because of the blockade and all that stuff. But once again, their education level, their medical level is much higher than ours, and they actually reap the benefits from it. And like you just said, they can help us out with this virus. But yet, they're Cuba, so we're going to stand off against them. Anthony Allen, they give it a super chat contribution, says, great show on important topics. Yes, we were just talking about the fact that Donald Trump has given the thumbs up, okay, military-wise,
and people aren't paying attention.
Retaliate? No, they haven't.
Focused on the coronavirus. This, by the way, nuclear war would just exacerbate this situation. It would just pretty much make it far worse.
A lot of shit going on in Idlib, too, with Russia and Syria and Turkey that, we talked about it with Mark Slobodka, but there's a lot of shit going on there as well. Election integrity is still an issue that hasn't been resolved, fam. I saw this right here, and I wanted to bring this up because, we've been talking about it, screaming about it. U.S. activists call for election monitors as elitist Joe Biden keeps advancing. Yeah, no shit. Some peoples have been asleep at the wheel when it comes to our election integrity.
Including the Bernie Sanders campaign, who has yet to address it.
And Bernie Sanders.
As somebody somebody who is a huge, obviously, as you guys know, Bernie Sanders supporter, the fact that he hasn't addressed this is troubling. It is. I mean, I've seen most of his supporters be like, Bernie, you need to address this. Bernie, you need to address this. Fight Shakir. They're tagging everybody.
Yeah.
And it still has yet to be addressed. Now it's even less likely to be addressed because of the coronavirus stuff that has been addressed. And, again, we're not minimizing the coronavirus, but we're saying if we don't focus on this, then that's going to happen. And so the Gray Zone and Medea Benjamin are asking the OAS to look into our elections, which is funny, but a lot of people said, but that's the OAS. But it's a tit for tat, right? If the OAS is this organization that really looks at our elections, then let's have them look at our elections. Why aren't they looking into our elections? I understand where they're coming from, and I agree with it. I'm like, if you guys say that this organization is so great, let's have them look into our own elections instead of the elections in Venezuela, the elections in Bolivia, the elections in every country that we consider an enemy or a socialist or a communist danger.
Yeah. The Organization of American States, we know how awful they can be, and it's so funny because they overthrew the Bolivian government because they stood behind the people to overthrow the Bolivian government, because mainly also too with their exit polls. Their exit polls, if we had their exit polls, I'd be a lot happier, because our exit polls are way off compared to what they did. And once again, they overthrew one of the greatest indigenous leaders of South and Central America of all times, and Evo Morales, and what he did to his people. And he's still, what has he done? Called for peaceful resolutions, peaceful revolution, and therefore they are not. I thought the indigenous people would eat the rich being over there because they outnumber them like 4-1. And they have been calm because Evo Morales has done so. We do have over 300 people watching on the Convo Couch YouTube. We want to appreciate it. If you can go over to the ROKFIN, ROKFIN. We have our premium stream going today, so you have to be a member to watch us. If you want to be a member and endorse us, it is $9.99 a month. Please do so. We also have a Patreon and a GoFundMe. The GoFundMe's been a little quiet since we were trying to figure out what's going on with the primaries, but you can jump on in there, give us a few bucks.
Yes, I'm going to Florida. Out. I know there's a lot of things that are shut down.
We're going like this. We're going like this, air quotes.
Yeah.
Because you know what I'm saying? I want to go to Hawaii, but air quotes.
Yeah.
We don't know what's happening. We have to sit still with the coronavirus and everything that's going on. Fiorella, you spent 9 hours of your life waiting to speak 1 minute on a disastrous election in L.A. County and demanded the resignation of Dean Logan. Millions of ballots are still left to be uncounted, and the issue is missing 17,000 vote-by-mail ballots still unanswered. I wanted a chance to go ahead and speak at this thing here. This is awesome what you guys did. Glory Jones was there.
She was able to get the video.
Robin Gibson. A bunch of other people, Melissa Michelson.
Yep.
I missed the chance. I came home to go ahead and speak to James Wyatt said, love you, love your work. Still, I think you should switch to Team Tulsi. Think about it. Really. He's asking you to come on in, James Wyatt. Let's play Fee's little 1 minute that she waited 9 hours to speak.
Please.
And this is what people got to do.
I'm Fiorella
Just think about this, ladies and gentlemen.
Isabel, I am a journalist and an observer, as well as an election integrity activist. I've traveled to Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and what I saw here in California was beyond a disgrace. It was absolutely unacceptable, and it could have been entirely avoidable. In fact, myself and my co-hosts reached out to Dean Logan and Alex Padilla, warning them after talking to poll workers live on video, we have this footage, telling us that people were going to get provisional ballots, that the machines were not working, that the software was unreliable, that it was also not secure. The previous months before, last year in July, we attended a meeting with Jeff Klein, who assured us that, we were going from 4,000 machines to 1,000 machines, but that was okay because we would have 11 days to vote. Guess what? That isn't true. We went to several precincts. I believe we went to 9, and none of those precincts were equipped, maybe but one, and the computers are still in boxes. So that's the reality. Dean Logan must resign.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Somebody said, Pitbull Fee. Pitbull Fee kicking ass up there. Voter fraud. Yeah, I want to give him a piece of my mind, too, as well, because here they are. They're handing us this piece of paper that says, let's look over the issues, what happened, why the lines were so long. Why don't we hold the man accountable who gets paid $300,000 freaking dollars a year first? Fire his ass. Get rid of him. And to act like that me, Johnny, and other people, and this is by design, fam, didn't go to them. This exactly.
We went to them multiple times.
You need to hire enough people. They need to get extra training over here. You know, that was my restaurant fucking hat kind of putting on. It's like, dude, you can't open this up just like this. This is a brand new system. You open up this brand new system, it's going to crash. But
With
guess
3,000 less polling stations, actually more than 3,000.
Yeah. And the fact that only 23% of them were open. Of the 1,000, only 233 were open. Johnny did the numbers. Johnny mathematics. And we found it. Like, we went around. And that was the moment when we looked at each other like, oh, this shit's going to crash. And this shit's going to crash hard.
That was on the 22nd, too.
Because the fact is they should have opened them all up so those people would at least had a little practice here and there. You know what I would have done, Johnny? I was thinking about this. If you made me the registrar and I had this new system, 6 months before, I would have had kids come in to vote with their parents. Their parents could do it and vote like on movies or on characters or something. Just get something fun and get it out there so therefore they can get using the system and people can get practicing with it. There are all different types of ideas that they could have done. The way they train people.
$300 million.
Yeah, and they didn't train people properly. And then you got to get aces in places. This is something in the restaurant business, right, Fee?
Yeah.
Like you can't let somebody who's not a good bartender be a bartender. You got to put that person in the right spot. You got to get that person there. It's called aces in places. You don't have, no offense, older people who've never worked with an iPad checking people in while the younger people are over there talking to people
that's
who are a little bit
exactly
uncomfortable.
what they had.
They did that shit on purpose by design. You need somebody in there who's got to put your aces in places, make sure that this thing runs efficiently. And like I said, there were fun ways because they could have programmed anything. We went to the mock. They didn't do well with the mock enough as well. You got to get people involved.
Yep.
But
We've been following this for like the last few years. I mean, there's no way. We've been after Alex Padilla, after Dean Logan, calling them. They completely avoided us. And if I would have had more than 1 minute after 9 hours to speak, I would have gone over every single thing and addressed every single thing that they did wrong, which was a lot because I think all of us wanted more time to say that. And, you know, it's disgusting that you have to wait 9 hours to have 1 minute of speech. I mean, let's just even point that out in our system. It was a filibuster. I mean, they completely pushed us all the way to the end until a lot of our people had to leave to go to work, to go take care of their kids. I mean, Angelica Duenas was there, but she had to go take care of her kids. Yeah. I mean, it's not fair. This system is set up so people don't protest. So you get so tired and so sick of going through every single hoop that they make you jump through that you just give up. Yeah. And that's what they want.
And it was just a sample size of what happened on election day. Just push people to the side. They got to leave. They're not going to be able to wait it out. People had to leave. You know, like I said, we were sitting there the whole time.
I almost left. I mean, 9 hours. You're kidding me? And I had to go stream with pasta. Yeah. And then I went and we got here and Tina and I still did our thing.
Yeah, it was terrible.
And it was a fucking awful day.
They did it on purpose.
It was just an awful day.
They could have kicked that shit to the very end.
Yeah.
And they could have switched things around and make us go first, but they didn't want people to talk up on that and stuff. Because why? They had worked with this group to do some things, you know, and a lot of these people were doing this, like the applause thing, and they were really happy.
You can't even make applause. You can't even make noise. It's ridiculous.
Buster Peak 21. Thank you for the super chat contribution. Is always appreciated on the couch. Mike Tracy on Twitter has been marginalizing exit polls, showing fraud, and has called those pointing it out as just sad.
Well, I disagree with him. There's multiple people doing research who are actual political activists on election integrity. This is their wheelhouse, and they are sending me info and others info on this. The TDMS research.com, I believe is the website, has continuously been following up on these exit polls. And yes, exit polls can be manipulated. But how is it that every single exit poll where Bernie Sanders was leading was off? I mean, every single one of them. Even the ones in South Carolina, his percentage is way off. He wasn't supposed to win, but it was still far less than what it should have been. And that's the thing. It's not just the exit polls. It is the numbers that aren't matching. It is the voter suppression that went on. It is a multitude of things. Yeah. And I think at this point, if you aren't admitting to yourself that this is actual, election suppression, that this is actually proof that the system is rigged, you deserve to have Donald Trump as a president. You deserve to not have a Bernie Sanders or a Tulsi Gabbard. Why? Because you're not really addressing this. And this isn't just against him. This is against anybody that thinks that. You have cognitive dissonance to not believe that your government is lying to you. It has been all along. People have been jailed and are they've tried killing themselves because of what's the point of having whistleblowers if they're going to tell you this information and you're just going to say, no, that's not enough proof. How do you expect to find the proof that we need in a system that is controlled by those committing the crimes?
Yeah. Absolutely, 100.
So,
here,
no.
Miss I Justice, thank you for the super chat contribution. It's always appreciated on the couch. Bigany Flynn says, Sanders, Joe Biden is my friend. He can beat Trump. Interviewer. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That invalidates your case against him. Sanders, Joe Biden is my friend.
I agree.
We have to stop.
I'm
this
going
shit.
to actually address that. Bernie's.
He's got to stop.
He's got to stop.
He's got to stop.
Entirely.
It was the 4 things I put in my video. Stop with the Russiagate narrative. Nobody wants to hear it.
Yep.
Stop. And I said that whole Russiagate, Mr. Putin, you will not interfere in my elections. It was like this Michael Dukakis moment I talked about, and I talked about it with Johnny.
Yeah.
Michael Dukakis, in I think his 1988, was on his way to win the presidency,
Mm-hmm.
and one of his advisors said, we're going to put him in a tank and a helmet on him to make him look tough. And after that happened, and he went driving around the tank, they took the pictures, his numbers just started. He was on his way to being the president. His numbers started to plummet because what it was, it looked like a political ploy to make you look tough. There he is. Okay? It doesn't work. It backfired.
No.
And that was the beginning of the end, I think, a lot of times when, Bernie's being cheated. He really is. He hasn't called out the voter suppression. That's another reason. Number 2. Okay, you got to call out the voter suppression. You shouldn't repeat the narrative of Russiagate. You should got to call it the voter suppression. You should stop saying Joe Biden is my friend. And for crying out loud, you should have stuck up for Tulsi Gabbard and made sure she was on that stage with you. The same thing you did for Martin fucking O'Malley, you should have done for Tulsi Gabbard. You can't say we're going to end racism, we're going to end bigotry, and then just ignore a sitting congresswoman who legally qualified according to the rules that they want to change.
And not
You're
only that,
making yourself look
ignore flat out,
the election
after
fraud.
all of his supporters are messaging him now, direct messaging. Bernie, stop propping up Biden. Bernie, address election integrity. Listen to your base, listen to the grassroots. What has gotten the Sanders campaign in trouble this time around more than anything is not listening to the grassroots, not listening to right now in the moment where you need to do the most is to let these establishment people who have worked for the Obama administration, who have worked for other politicians or establishment, run this campaign when that should not have been the case from the start. The grassroots should be running this campaign. You can't run a grassroots campaign with elitist establishment hacks at the top. Yeah. You just can't do it.
Well, you can't run a grassroots campaign without talking to the grassroots.
So,
jeez, man, and you think that's like we brought this shit to them months ago, and it was like, we got everything under control. Rafael Navarro, we got everything under control. We got this. No, you don't, pal. No, you don't. And don't be fooled, ladies and gentlemen, by the fact that Bernie Sanders won California. Mikey Treasure Santucci calls me this morning. CNN or MSNBC finally called California for Bernie Sanders, but he could have won this a lot bigger, a lot more. And they pulled out every single trick of the trade.
And there's still votes that haven't been counted, you guys.
And we don't know if they will be counted because now the coronavirus is going to hurt the counting process. But if you want to believe that 23% of the registered voters in Los Angeles, that's what's counted, 23%, and that's 300,000 Republican votes. But if you want to believe that that's all we can get out, then please. This is what they did in 2016. They came up with 1.4, almost 1.3 million Los Angeles Democratic voters with the crossover and everything else like that. Meanwhile, that's the number they had in 2008. There was probably about 2 million voters in 2016, and it should probably be about 2.5 million voters in 20, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But we're far from it, and that's it. And they want you, and Joe Biden could beat Donald Trump. No, he can't. I'm never going to vote for Joe.
Never.
And guess what, fam? You don't have to vote for Joe Biden.
You don't.
We got a friend of, I don't know. It says it's not available for me again.
You deleted this.
But no, here we are. What is it? Check it out, fam. There's a song. Let's play it.
Oh, Jen.
Democrats! You don't have to vote for Joe Biden. 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 Not one more fucking vote, y'all. Democrats.
Exactly.
That's it.
And this is what is the reality is Joe Biden is hated by young people. I mean, look, the Gen Z has taken over TikTok, and millennials are out there fighting right now in the streets, and we're seeing, guys, we have to come together, Gen Z and millennials and Gen X, who people like Pasta, who some of your generation has been passive on this, a lot of them. And it's time to really overtake the boomers, because the one, and I'm going to say this, and this might be mean, but the one silver lining in all of this is the boomers are old. They're susceptible to all of this happening. They're the people that are voting for Joe Biden, and they're not going to win anything without us. And it's time for us to rise up, get together, organize. Even if the campaign is canceling canvases and not organizing, you find a way to make phone calls. You find a way to organize pamphlets, put it in the doorstep of people saying, look, vote for Bernie because this is a stimulus package. Vote for Tulsi or whoever you want. But say you cannot vote for Joe Biden. You don't have to vote for Joe Biden.
Yeah. Patrick, thank you for the super chat contribution. Says Patrick Kamikak. I can't even say his name. Kamik. Biden's health seems to be getting worse. Do you think he might be forced out of the race before the convention?
That's a worry.
I don't even think he should have ever been in the race to begin with.
That's a worry, but I know that they have a backup plan, whether it's putting Michelle Obama. I think it's more likely Hillary or Klobuchar Harris, any of those people. And, say, okay, well, that's fine. They'll take over. But that's it, you guys.
Yeah.
It could be Warren, too, for all we know.
We don't know.
She's talking about how she's so worried about the coronavirus. If she were actually worried about the coronavirus, she would have endorsed Bernie Sanders and said, oh, here, everybody go vote for Bernie Sanders. That's not what she did. We know that. I don't care about her endorsement at this point. I think she's canceled from the progressive community. But there are a lot of Bernie surrogates that are still pushing that narrative, and I think that is stupid.
Yep.
I think it is actually downright idiotic, and I think they have zero political gravitas. They have zero understanding in political strategy. They are complete idiots, and I just have zero patience with them, because while they are propping up Elizabeth Warren, people are dying, and people are starving and unable to afford anything in general, and now comes in the coronavirus. So please don't tell people to continue asking for Elizabeth Warren being a VP or the endorsement of Elizabeth Warren
you made a
when
video.
She has literally done nothing but pretty much prop Joe Biden up. That's her whole point. That was all she was there to do, be the spoiler for progressives. So nobody gets to call her a fucking progressive anymore. She's done.
David ALH, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. It's always appreciated on the couch. Happy birthday, fam. And happy birthday to our friends out there. If anybody's got a birthday today, not mentioning any names. David LH says the caucus poll numbers started sinking before that because he waited way too long to respond to Bush's attack ads saying he was soft on crime. But the tank was the final nail in the coffin.
I agree.
Yeah. I remember... they played an ad like on the Game 3 of the World Series. I remember seeing that ad. And like, Dad, what's that? And my father was just laughing hysterically. I said, Dad, what are you laughing at? He was just laughing hysterically. Because here you had the caucus with this helmet on. And that's the thing. You never put anybody in a hat anyways. Yeah. But you really shouldn't try to have what's the word I'm saying? An effort together as a campaign to try to make your candidate look like he's tough. And the whole Russiagate narrative thing for Bernie Sanders was just stupid because it's not Bernie Sanders. Who is Bernie Sanders to be fencing off with Putin? Like, no, he's the guy that's going to sit down and get rid of nuclear weapons. Yep. So it was just an awful campaign strategy. His team, his whole fucking campaign fam, they've been terrible. What'd you say? They had no gravitas?
They just don't understand what we know is they're not looking at the big picture. They're more about optics instead of actions, and being more about optics when it comes to the election. When it came to places like Iowa, which, we know the things I said, were seen as terrible. But in the end, I think it helped Iowa. And the things like Tina and I were doing is taking these videos and stuff. I mean, we all need to be doing that. And the campaign cared more, at least in LA. You guys heard Melissa Michelson talking about it, about how it made them look as inefficient and ineffective than they did by just simply saying, hey, we could use your help, grassroots. We could do this. It became more about egos and how the optics looked. Yeah. And it's not about, you can't run a campaign like this on optics alone. It has to matter.
Right up there,
Actions have to matter.
Right up there. It's got to be from the top down. From the top, that's where the weakness starts. The Jeff Weavers, the Chuck Rogers. I'm sorry, guys. But you guys are the ones who should have been able to explain to your field organizers, your heads of states like the Rafael Navarres, to make sure that the grassroots is involved in the campaign in some way or another. I mean, you have to listen to them. They understand what's going on the grounds.
Right.
They know how to do all the work. And when it comes to
ground
so many
game
issues,
is so important. And like, fortunately for us, we have some of the best organizers here who worked for the campaign, like Melissa, like Betty Dumas, and they were doing everything they could out there to and that's why we won California.
Dude, the way
they won California, not the Lewis Myerses who are patting themselves on the back, not the Rafa Navarres.
And it was so ridiculous. On election day, they were starting to put stuff up online like it's too late. Oh, this is an outrage. You got to fix this stuff. We were coming to you with stuff, and you didn't want to listen to us.
You said it was
You didn't want to listen
conspiracy
to
theory.
us. We were like, listen, I got this laid out of what they're going to do that day, and I'm going to tell you right now. And especially when Alex Padilla was certifying this fucking system, when we had the independent report about so much shit. We'd gone through the mock. We'd gone through everything. We saw the lack of hiring. We saw the lack of poll workers. We saw the lack of training. We knew all the bugs in the system. They were changing rules and laws. You're talking about less than a month before the actual first day of voting. Brent McKinney says, thank you, Convo Couch, Fiorella. Pasta, leave my name out. For your investigative journaling regarding our corrupt elections. Hey, I thank Brent. Appreciate that.
Pasta sensitive.
Appreciate that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Last night I did continue on with my article that I'm writing, laying out everything we've been talking about, the tactics.
You should pitch it to certain
we're gonna.
independent media outlets.
We're gonna. Actually, to tell you the truth, I mean, my boys in Chicago and Hardlands, he said, before you put that out there, please send it my way. Kit Cabello, a guy who's been doing great work. He sent over another election integrity activist, Lord Chamberlain, her name is, and she talks about how our closed source system, thank you, Jack Sith, our closed source system, because we don't have open source. Open source meaning non-proprietary software. Our publicly funded elections, our taxpayer dollars that go to fund these elections are being owned by private corporations where we can't even look into the system. We can't even subpoena the software to see what's going on. And that's why you do have a lot of these election integrity activists who say, no way, we want to get away. Thank you, old gringo. We want to get away from anything that has to do with computers. They want to hand count ballots all over the place. You know what I'm saying? I'm one of those. I want both. You know what I'm saying? I want to know. We do know MMT, Tristan. Shut up.
It'd be great. A lot of people are proposing the idea of voting online, and which that would be awesome.
Joe Rogan talks about it.
We're not there yet.
No,
we don't have the system in place. Anything is hackable, even paper ballots. But there's not enough trust in the system for people to be on board with that right now. Not after all the shit that they've been doing.
But that's the thing, that there's a lot of ways to kind of thwart the vote when it's hand counting. Right. So I mean, there's all these things that we have to take into accountability. And the way I feel is that if we are going to use any computer system whatsoever, it has to be 100% open source. I'd like to add some blockchain technology in there to protect the system as well. Those are like timestamps and everything can be moved. I want to learn more about those systems and then have a paper trail as well to make sure that we have accuracy along and with accountability. So, I mean, there's so many things that have to take place, but we have to get a hold of it. We're not even there.
But in other countries, they do use paper ballots, and it has worked far better than what we have. So, in every major country, they don't understand why we're using digital. And the reason we're using digital is because they want to control the means of the
digital
elections.
counting machine with no way to look it up.
We must seize the means of production.
Yeah,
we have to seize the means of production, you guys.
All right. You guys got to get to the store.
So, yeah, we're going to go to the store, guys, and we're going to check it out, and we're going to see what they look like. And, yeah.
Johnny, you got anything else?
I haven't been to the store.
Make sure your microphone's
Johnny,
on. People haven't even heard your voice the whole thing.
I know, they want to hear.
People in the chat were saying that jobs are upticking in Antarctica, which is interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, so because Cardi B said she was going to go to Antarctica. Johnny, do you have her rant?
Here's a job. It says vehicle operator in McMurdo Station. I looked up where the hell McMurdo Station is. Right here. I don't know. I've heard some things about Antarctica. It was weird. Like, no one's allowed to go there, or, you know, like they have security. I don't know.
You see that
Cardi
right
B's
there,
going, fam. She's going.
That's usually like an ice bridge they go across right there. Like it's all ice
melted.
sometimes. And they go across it.
Yeah, but it's melting. That's a whole other. We haven't even put climate change into this whole recipe of disaster, right? Because now you have climate change. Guess what, guys? You think the coronavirus is bad? Guess what? All of the toxins and the bacteria and the viruses that have been frozen in the ice for hundreds of thousands and millions of years are now going to start coming out.
And living woolly mammoths.
They're going to start coming out. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll take a woolly mammoth. That'll be cool. We can ride the woolly mammoth.
And yeah, we hang out with woolly mammoths.
They're going to come out, you guys. Those diseases, all jokes aside. And we can't even deal with a little virus like corona. Once that happens, that's it. I mean, that's...
Johnny Antarctica.
Johnny Antarctica. Okay, so Johnny and I are going to go check out the grocery stores.
Wait, he's got something else.
Johnny.
No, we're not playing that.
Yes,
I think
Johnny,
it's gonna be a copyright. That's why.
Johnny.
Oh, that sucks.
Johnny, it's that.
But just tell them about it.
Oh, Johnny, this is hysterical.
No,
you
just-
worked
we
on
can't-
this thing.
But we can't. It's going to give us a copyright strike.
Is it?
Yeah.
Government, government, government. You want to know something? I know shit getting real. Once the stock market start going low, that's how I know shit getting real. Because ain't nothing that white corporate America hates the most than losing motherfucking money. And all we need to know is, like, come on now, let's stop playing around. Is this coronavirus shit going to be like a couple of weeks type of shit? Or it's going to be a couple of months type of shit? Let me know so I can start motherfucking racking up on foods and Montclair's so a bitch could move to motherfucking Antarctica, bitch. Cause this shit look like we about to be bird boxing in this motherfucker, bitch. I'm scared. But you wanna know something? I'm about to get the fuck. Cause I was really thinking about moving to the islands. But the shit is motherfucking spreading. But I know ain't nobody going up there. But I is, bitch. What's up? I meet y'all niggas there. Bye.
I fucking love this girl.
Jesus.
Hey, but I is, bitch.
I need to be going to Antarctica.
With
Brett
Cardi
McKinney
B.
says, thank you, Pasta, from the Convo Couch, for all your hard work to improve our democracy. He gave us an extra Finsky for it. Thank you so much, Brent. I was only joking. You know,
no, he wasn't.
No, yes, I am.
Pasta is so sensitive. If I don't he says I'm cold because I don't say things like fam, I love you, fam, or like, I don't know. But this is how I am towards everybody,
That's
though.
bullshit. Because
It's
everybody
not
doesn't
bullshit.
cook for you and do stuff for you. And I'm like, how was it? And you're like, it's all right. Johnny does it too.
My
it's
mother
not
and my
bad."
grandmother are great cooks. They put seasoning in their food. Pasta doesn't always use
My
seasoning.
food,
I'm
my
Latina.
food has
I'm
plenty
sorry.
of seasoning.
No, it doesn't.
I just went easy with the salt because of people for
Pasta's a great cook for white people.
That is such bullshit.
Just kidding.
You loved my chicken piccata the other day, made it with extra seasoning, extra flavor. My pasta sauce, all of Ron's family loved it. So it was one of the best arrabbiata. Sweet on the front end, a little
It didn't have enough
spicy
sauce.
on the back
I'm so
end.
sorry.
Not
There's-
left for you, but I ate it nicely because I had a little olive oil, a little Parmesan cheese.
I like sauce. Sorry.
This girl is too much sometimes. Johnny, anything else? All right, guys, that was a nice 98-minute show. We almost went for 100 minutes. I'm trying to kind of space it out. Things coming up. We're gonna just stand by on a lot of things, see what's going on with this coronavirus. Chef Pasta is here. We'll be cooking tonight. I'm starving. And we're just going to play it by ear. If we do have a GoFundMe, you want to help out when things do get back up there, you know, we'll be fighting for election integrity. We know we'll be fighting these primaries. It's going to be a crazy time.
I mean,
we
want to
what the
really.
hell is going on.
I really specifically, and I know Pasta this too, wants to address election integrity, and I'm worried about states like Arizona and Florida, right now. So I'm going to try to make my way somewhere. I know that we're kind of shut down right now because the canvassing is shut down. The events are shut down because I get all the Bernie press stuff. There's really nothing going on right now. But, you know, the elections are going to continue, and I want to see how these states are going to address that as well.
And if you want to help me out, my candidate, it's 033300. I'm Joe Biden. I'm running for senator. You don't want to vote for me, vote for the other Biden.
President.
And the
vote
combo.
for Trump. Yeah. That's a bunch of malarkey.
Well, anyways, that's it. Check out our GoFundMe. Join up on our ROKFIN. Thank you so much to all our Patreons. We got like 80-something out of you guys out there. And we want to thank you every month that you guys help us out. We get to do this here. There's a lot of homework that's in detail, but we do it, and we will continue to do it. So for Pasta Jardula.
And Fiorella.
Johnny Sue on the ones and twos. That's 100 minutes.
Combo out.